Yeah, the commitment level was really high tonight, and obviously when you're playing against, the Stanley Cup champions, it's our guys were really dialed in, and like you said, certainly in the last, we made a couple turnovers, but certainly in those last, in the empty net, they're real committed. We had great blocks, good sticks, and yeah, we were really happy with that.
And welcome into Judd's Hockey Show. That, of course, while Coach Dean Everson talking about his team's victory on Sunday over the Tampa Bay Lightning at home. Second game of a 5-game homestand for the Wild. They win 4-2 with an empty net goal over the Stanley Cup champions. That gives them back-to-back wins. They beat the Winnipeg Jets on Friday afternoon, and Declan, we recapped that with the Judd's Hockey Show on Saturday. So let's talk about this one. Okay, I'm just flat out impressed.
Yeah.
You play a good team that plays a really hard game. Tampa's missing some key players, but guess what? They're still really good. And they come into your building and play well. And man, it's gotten now. I mean, this is so unwild-like, but it's fun to talk about. It's gotten just to the point now of it feels like, for the most part, from the Wild, you really know, Dex, what you're going to get consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And some nights, if Kaprizov is going, it's flashy. If he's not, it's still a really solid game. This is fun to watch because this team now, and this is a hard place to get to, but and they're not perfect. So don't hear me wrong here. I'm not saying that like this team is going to win the cup, and I think that they're perfect, but I do think that they get what the mission is. I do think they understand what the assignment is. I do think that they show up with a level of consistency. And I'll go back to the Jets game on Friday. The Jets played a terrible game. Like, the Jets were slumping. No, I think they did come back and beat Calgary on Saturday, but the Jets didn't play well. And the Wild didn't go out there and say, well, they're not playing well. Day after Thanksgiving, I guess we'll sort of try, but we don't care. The Wild played its game. And I feel like one of my biggest frustrations with sports teams is this. And it's actually a question. What's your identity? Like, good teams have it, but a lot of teams don't. And it's like, what's your mission? What's your identity? Like, who are you? Don't play down to a team and then play, well, now we got the Lightning here, so let's try harder, right? It feels like, Declan, that this team right now, and I credit this starting with Bill Guerin and with Dean, it feels like this team has, in every game, for the most part, an identity that is far more important than the opponent.
Let me flip something on you quick here. If you could use one word to describe what the Wild have been this season, what's one word that you could use to describe? One. Just one.
Yep. And this is not meant as a dig, okay?
No, not at all.
Workmanlike.
Okay.
They are workmanlike, because here's the amazing thing too. And if I had shown you these statistics at the start of the year and then ask you to guess the record, and Kaprizov's stats now are fine. Like, they're good.
They're fine. Yeah.
They're absolutely good. But if I had shown you Fiala's lack of production and been like, Declan, we're X amount of games in, what's the record?
Right.
I don't think there's any way that you would have looked at me with a straight face and said, Judd, they will be leading the division. They'll be playing well. And Fiala's struggles, there'll be a story, but they won't be an overriding problem. What's your word?
Legit.
Yeah,
I think
totally
the
fair.
number one word is legit. I think they're a very legitimate team. They've gone toe-to-toe with Tampa, who's pretty good. They've taken care of all the bad teams they should be taking care of business against. Even the Florida game, where it was pretty clear that game looked a lot closer at the end of the box score, because they made it a 1-goal game at the end, and they were able to mark their resilient comeback. I think that might be the other word a lot of people would use, is resilient, just by the way this team comes back. But in general, I've yet to really see them go through a back-to-back stretch where they've been outplayed by a team, or they've looked lost as a team. There's been individuals who have looked lost, right, to your point about Kirill and Fiala, and even at times, even though he's gotten wins, Cam Talbot. But I think everything right now is pointing that this is a very legitimate team. This is their second best start in franchise history. The Wild put out the note their 29 points are tied for the second best. The other 3 years they had at least 28 points. I put this a little tongue-in-cheeky, but 2013-14, they started 13-4-4. That team made it to the second round of the NHL playoffs. 2002-03, of course, their run to the Western Conference playoffs, and they went 12-5-4. And the 11-12 team, which started 13-5-3, and I believe had the best record in the NHL by December 1st, only to miss the playoffs completely. But again, tongue-in-cheeky, they did not get bounced in the first round in any of those three seasons. I think they're a very legitimate team, and when you can beat a Tampa team, hey, Vasilevsky was in net today. They didn't have to. The Tampa could have done the classic thing that you and I talked about for the last few weeks, where a good team loves to start their backup goalie against the Wild. No, they put out their A team. They put out Vasilevsky and said, good luck trying to stop him. The Wild are still figuring out ways to win games. That Tampa team's back-to-back Cup champions, man, and you were able to take it to them on home ice. Now you get a little soft spot in your schedule again, right? You get Arizona coming up. You get New Jersey. Should be 4 points, if not 3. Those are two pretty bad teams. Arizona being one of the most abysmal teams, not named Montreal this season, but legitimate. I think that's the one word I could use to describe the Wild this season. They're legit.
I think that's totally fair. I think it's totally fair, and I think it starts with the fact that they do have an identity, and I think it starts with the fact that they are, and I mean, this is the really weird thing. They're reliant on their team, and they've got some players playing well, but they're not really reliant on any one skater. Yep. They're not really, it's not like, well, if Kaprizov's not killing, if he's not playing great, they're dead. Or Fiala. Ryan Hartman continues to be phenomenal. I don't know how. I don't really care how, because it doesn't feel fluky because he's working hard. And he always works hard. So it's not like, well, he's playing well, but wait, the regression is coming for sure. Now, will his stats taper off eventually? Probably. But the way that he plays, and let me give you 2 examples of players who I really think, how can I put this fairly? I think they epitomize what this team is about, okay? The first one, Rem Pitlick. He is now kicked up to today the basically first line. So Mats was out, Zuccarello with I think he's got a hand problem, and he didn't play today, which Dean had said on Friday that he thought he could play, and I'm not shocked he didn't play. But they put Pitlick up there with Hartman and Kaprizov, and Pitlick didn't look lost. Like, I'm not saying he's great, but he also didn't look lost. And the trust that this team has, the ultimate trust that these guys have to say, you're playing there, and there's no pushback of, oh, really? He's playing there? That doesn't seem right? Like, he's a 4th line guy or he's a 3rd line guy, and that's it. The other one today was because of the shuffling, Declan, with the lineup. Victor Rask played, and Victor Rask scored. And Victor Rask, I don't know why, but you bring him from the press box, and like that first game back, he's great, and I don't know why. And it won't keep up, but this is 2 consecutive games where Rask has played really damn well in his first game after being scratched. But again, unlike the previous teams, Declan, it doesn't feel like, I can't believe that guy's playing, or I can't believe that guy's playing there. Everybody sort of slots in and does their job. They do their job. And it also doesn't feel to me, aside from Fiala pressing now at times, it doesn't feel to me like you've got a bunch of guys who are trying to prove themselves and thus do too much. It feels like when you watch this team, everybody understands their assignment and the ask. And so you don't get a guy trying to consistently overextend his shifts or trying to make a great play. Now, Kaprizov, I believe it was on the Tampa Bay's first goal. Kaprizov did turn over the puck. I think it was pretty high in the Lightning zone, but that's Kaprizov. Like, he's going to try and make plays. I'm not shocked there, but it just felt like this team used to have a lot of guys trying to extend themselves too much to prove that they belong or that they could do more. And this team doesn't really have that. And it's such a breath of fresh air because it feels like, for the most part, a really professional approach that we didn't consistently see here for a long time.
Yeah, no, I think the point of giving Rem Pitlick opportunities is important, as a couple of our YouTube commenters pointing out here. If this was Koivu, Stahl, Parise, Suter, Pitlick would have never even been claimed. Pitlick wouldn't have been getting opportunities. Pitlick is now earning his rights here. I mean, for God's sakes, I think Adam's comment here, he's diet Fiala. You could make a similar case. He is kind of diet Fiala. He's not as talented, but he has good hockey IQ. He can make very tape-to-tape fun passes. I think that the fact that this Wild team has just figured out ways to plug in guys and then to be successful is extremely impressive. I mean, who would have thought that Ryan Hartman would be leading the team with 10 or 12 goals now at this point throughout the season? Yeah, he did. And in general, I mean, Pitlick gets 12.5 minutes now, a 5-on-5 here today against Tampa Bay, and his numbers were pretty darn good. He's able to get opportunities, which is very, very, very big for him. Fiala, I noticed him. He had obviously, I think, 5-6 shots on goal again.
He did. He lost shots
in the win, and in general, you'll think the goals would start coming, and there's a little bit of snake bitten there, but when guys like Ryan Hartman are scoring goals and Foligno are scoring goals, and Joel Eriksson Ek doesn't ever wow you with what he does, but he has again the workman-like attitude that you're talking about. Usually, when you get in the postseason, those superstar players in Kirill and Fiala, they get shut down. I mean, that's what Vegas did. Vegas said, we're going to shut down Kirill, and can you beat us without him? And Vegas was right in that assessment. You couldn't beat us without your superstar player going at his 100th percentile. Well, if guys like Ryan Hartman are scoring goals, your defense also, which we haven't even touched on today, but we talked about a lot before going into the Jets game, that was a huge plus for this team, that you have 3 defensive pairings that can absolutely roll. I wasn't in love with the fact that because Talbot got both games against the Jets and the Lightning. I would have liked Capo to start that game against
barking up the wrong tree now, my man.
Yeah, but Talbot's looking good, so it's also it's hard to pull him. I mean, Devils in Arizona, I would imagine Capo gets Arizona. I mean, for God's sakes, Dean, like I think you will. You
won't get the Devils. Dean. I bet you're right. I bet against the
Yotes. The Yotes are horrible, man. Perfect opportunity for Dino to rest Cam Talbot and get Capo sometime. Yep. But in general, this team has found ways to win games with not their superstar players. And oh, by the way, Marco Rossi and Matthew Boldy are in Iowa playing very, very well.
Boldy's ready.
So and Boldy, he's just there because there's no reason for him to quote unquote, for him to play up here right now, right this second, but that clock's going to be ticking here soon as well. So in general, everything's working for the Wild. It's great. After watching the Vikings lose, Judd, and the Wolves win big this weekend, the Wild are now winning. It's actually nice to watch a Minnesota sports team take care of business.
And actually, your Boldy comment is a great transition to the next topic, because do you know where? Go watch highlights and clips of Boldy playing for the Iowa Wild. You know where he's really good? Do you know where he's really proficient? On the power play.
Oh, yeah.
Matthew Boldy and I saw this from him when I watched him when he was playing, I think it was 2 tournaments ago now, in the World Juniors. And I've said this. Matthew Boldy, when you watch him, has the instincts and the moves of a center. Like, you could tell he sees things quickly or like a half tick before they occur. Watch him. Now, he's got the body of a winger, but he also has the ability and the movements and the anticipation. That's probably the best word. The anticipatory skills that really help on a power play. Now, let me tell you a little story about the Wild power play right now, Declan Goff. They're not good. They are right now 23rd at 15.2%. And this is the one thing where I guess I'm a little bit confused by Dean. Like, I think Dean's done a great job. So, again, just full disclosure, don't hear me wrong here, all right? He has done a great job. But with Spurgeon and Zuccarello out today, let me give you the Wild's first power play.
Okay.
Ek, Fiala, and Kaprizov up front. Brodin and Goudreau on the points.
What the hell are we doing there?
Okay, that's what I'm wondering.
That's their top unit.
Now number 1, I would put Dumba up. I would take Goudreau off and put Dumba up there. And I immediately got back notes. I tweeted this, and the Wild fans on Twitter said Dumba can't run the power play because of his penchant for losing the puck. Number 1, my response is this. a forward on the power play, unless he's great, is no sure thing. Like
Yeah.
those guys don't play defense. So you are putting an inherent risk out there um, when you put a guy like Goudreau on the point. That's number one. Number two is I didn't ask him to run it. Brodin can run it. Brodin can quarterback it. Dumba's shot and offensive efficiency to me make him a far better choice than Goudreau to replace Zuccarello on that power play. But maybe the most intriguing thing is if Boldy can get up here and find his way to the top, let's say one of the top three lines, because I think we talked about this on Saturday. He's not going to be a fourth line guy, nor should he be.
Right.
Boldy on the power play really intrigues me. Boldy on the wing on the power play really intrigues me. And so I do think that there could be a role, and I think he's prepared. When you watch his game decks, it doesn't look like it's like, I think he's going to struggle here. It looks like, no, I think he'd be pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
So just as far as the power play goes, and I know that the Wild got off to a terrible start in the power play last year, rebounded, actually came back. And I think by the time that we got late into the regular season, they were really good. So that could happen here. But I'm trying to think of ways to spice this thing up. And putting Goudreau out there on the point to me does not do that. I can see him on the second power play. The first power play, I think, is a huge reach.
The power play woes of this team are pretty impressive, given their personnel, and I know they're out Zuccarello and Spurgeon, so you have to jumble some things because those are two guys that are.
But it wasn't great with them. So
no, yep, and I'm with you. So
right.
So Brodin and Goudreau on a top unit when you could potentially plug in Kalen Addison, you could potentially plug in Matt Dumba, you could actually get Matt Boldy up here. There's ways to basically fix that power play, and I haven't even mentioned that Zuccarello I mentioned that Zuccarello and Spurgeon are out, but then if you add those pieces, obviously in Addison and Boldy to like a second unit power play, well, now that wealth is spread out more. There's more. Like Frederick Goudreau should be nowhere near a Stanley Cup contending power play unit. God love him. He should not be near the top unit and probably should maybe be the last guy on, fringe guy on your second unit if you're a Stanley Cup team. He's better than I thought he was, but he should have no business on a power play unit of a team that's contending for a Stanley Cup.
No,
correct. So Boldy and Addison should probably figure out ways to draw in the lineup eventually, and it's easy for me to drop X's and O's on power play struggles and to say, hey, plug in these talented players and everything will will work itself out. But if you're trotting out, and I like Brodin too. Brodin is a very unsexy, sexy player, but him being on the top power play unit, that's out of necessity because there's injuries. He shouldn't be on there necessarily either. If you plugged in Addison and Boldy, and then you get Zuccarello and Spurgeon back, well, now all of a sudden you have Fiala, Ek, Kaprizov, Dumba, Boldy, Addison. Like you have so many cooks in the kitchen for two power play units that eventually everything starts clicking. That's an easy fix right there.
Well, it's worth a shot. I would put Dumba in place of Goudreau on that first power play right now. I don't understand it. That's a weird one. It seems like they're beating their heads against the wall thinking it should work, and it's just not working. Like it's not working. It's 23rd, and they're struggling to get shots. They don't have it's really, really weird. And I think Dumba is going to shoot, which is great. The other thing that I don't really get, and I think he's been there for a while, but what are your thoughts on Kaprizov playing the bumper? Because I think I would probably try and get Kaprizov into the Fiala slot there, where it sets him up to shoot more from a circle. So Kaprizov is the bumper, which means he's basically in the slot. And I get why they do that. But again, it doesn't seem to be maximizing things for him. So if nothing else, I would just try some different things. And you certainly should be able to find a combination that might not be lethal, but is an improvement on this, because right now that first power play just looks disjointed, I think.
Yeah, no, it's pretty bad. I would probably swap those two out, Kaprizov, Fiala, swap them positions. That is, I could see that being a thing. in general, a team that is playing this well 5-on-5, which is a good sign, you would think would be a lot better on the power play, and unfortunately, they're just not. It's nice that they're dominating 5-on-5. They've been one of the best 5-on-5 teams in the league.
Yep.
But even when pull up their power play percentage, they're 15%, and league average is about 19.5 right now this season.
Yep.
So they are out underperforming the power play. And when you get power plays against Tampa Bay, which, I mean, for God's sakes, they were on a power play for like the last 6 minutes of the second period today against Tampa, and you don't score, though, like in the playoffs, if
that's going to cost you.
If it's going to cost
what I thought
you,
too. Yeah.
Like it's fine. Like, yeah, it's disappointing. It's like, okay, you got to bury one of these chances here against Tampa Bay. It's a good team. They can bury you in a second if they turn it on. But in the playoffs, if you get 4 minutes of power play time in the final 7 minutes of a period, and you don't cash in at least one of those goals, oh man, like that's gonna kill you. It's gonna handcuff you.
Yep. And my problem is this: I don't feel like the chemistry on that top power play is that good. Like, it doesn't feel like, it's not like they're coming so close and it will come. It feels like it's just not great, and it should be. I get that, and I get the talent. But at some point in time, I think from a chemistry standpoint, Declan, you have to look at this and say, okay, who can we sub here, or what can we do to tweak it? Again, perhaps move Kaprizov out of the bumper. I don't know, just come up with something. And yeah, the Goudreau one, I just don't get. Like that I flat out don't get. I get that they like him, and I get he's been a nice addition. And yes, he's got speed, and he's not a great player, but he's certainly a better player than I expected. All of that being said, I'm with you. He's a second power play guy, if that. He's not a top one. And so, yeah, I'm curious there. So that's the one thing that's not going great, but besides that, I don't want to complain much, because I just don't have to the commenter's point. If Kalen Addison's going to be here, I would like him to play, but I also get the flip side is Jordy Ben. I wrote his name down, so I don't call him by his brother's name. Jordy Ben is playing well, which is awesome, and he's been a stabilizing force on that third defensive pair. But yeah, that game today really impressed me, because that's the type of game where they traditionally lose 4-3 or something. Like, it's not a terrible game, but it's also a game where they fall short. And in my notes, the one thing that I had was, I really think, and it's just one game, and look, this team lost to the Kraken last night, but I really think that the only game that I've seen where I thought, okay, the Wild isn't flat out not as good as this team, the Panthers. Other than that, I don't think I have seen a team or a game where I've been like, oh boy, that's tough. And I know that the Avs are teased as that team, but I haven't seen it yet. And we can talk about skill, and we can talk about, oh man, you're outskilled. Okay, that's fine. But until you see a team put together a game where they actually can outskate you and be more physical, which the Florida Panthers were in that game, but the Avs haven't shown that yet. And so that's where I'm impressed, because we're now almost to December 1st, and I'm hard pressed to give you more than one team who I say that was really tough.
Right.
Today, Tampa's good. Guess what? You beat them. You played with them the entire time, and you never looked. This didn't feel fluky too. It didn't. That game didn't end, and I said to myself, okay, yeah, they won, but if you play Tampa Bay 10 times, you're going to win 2 or 3.
Yep.
I saw a game today against the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion that I thought, okay, you know what? That was a fun game, a good game, and you are, at least on this particular day, you look like you 1000% belong on the same ice with that team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just impressive that they just figure out ways to hang with teams, and the fact they're not slow. Tampa Bay's, they're the best team in the NHL the last 2 years with how they won the Stanley Cups. But the fact that this team just figures out ways to win games, they're just really, really fast and quick. And a swoon is gonna happen. They're gonna go on a snide eventually. They're not gonna win every.
How long
game.
is it gonna be though?
But I don't know.
See, but that's the thing is there's a difference between so we're conditioned to the Valentine's Day swoon, which lasts a month. Yeah. It's February, right?
Mm-hmm. It's usually January, February.
I'm with you. They're going to hit a rough stretch. But my question is because good teams go through patches where they just don't play good. But they don't lose consistently. See, I think we're so conditioned, Dex, to be like, well, the Wild comes into this game 1-7-1 or something, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that this team, and knock on wood, I'm not trying to jinx them. I don't know that this team is going to be susceptible to that type of stretch because like when you say swoon, okay, you're going to go through a streak of 5 games where you'll win 1. But what you can't do is go through a streak of 10 games, right? So, and that's where I don't know. It's so new now. I don't know what to make of this damn team because it feels different and it feels like they're not slump proof, but it feels like that there's a certain professional approach here that they're going to probably win some games where we flat out say, how'd they win that game?
Yeah.
And it won't be pretty, but it doesn't have to be pretty.
And that's kind of hockey. I mean, I'm just like looking down their schedule and I'm looking for like a stretch of 5 games. And obviously we're still young enough.
How's February? Or wait, they're off because of the Olympic break.
From the 2nd to the 24th, there's no games. I know you can't stand it.
No, they shouldn't. Well, and especially now, they shouldn't be.
But there really isn't like they play. In December they play Vegas. They play Vegas, Carolina, which is a road and home back to back. Like that could be potentially dangerous. Those are 2 very good.
But that's 2 games,
right? I know. I'm looking for a stretch.
Can you find a March stretch?
No,
because March they play a ton. So that would be the stretch where it's like, oh my God, something's happening.
I legitimately, maybe this one. March into April. March 27th, home against, but these are all home games. Home against Colorado, home against the Flyers, home against the Penguins, on the road against Carolina, and then on the road against Washington.
Okay, that's the type of stretch.
Maybe, but you're home for 4 out of those games.
Right. No, you're right.
I think that's it.
But but I guess what I'm trying to say is we are conditioned to the annual February swoon, but we shouldn't be accepting. Like, that's not the norm. Again, you go through 5 games. Okay, 5 games you didn't play well. You won 1 of them. Take your pick.
Yeah.
But we're used to these Mike Yossi 10-game stretches where it's like, oh my God, the coach might get fired. And that's what I feel like this team, and this is a credit to the players. I feel like the players on this team have an accountability that they could, because you can end those. I mean, there's 82 games. If your players are like, we're going to stop this crap right now, they can basically stop it. The problem with this team previously is the locker room would get fractured and who would stop it. So it's a really interesting thing, but I don't think that we should be just accepting or expecting the type of swoons that this team made us suffer through previously.
To answer Jackson's question here in our YouTube comment section, by the way, if you're watching Judd's Hockey Show, thank you very much. We're up late. We're giving you some optimism after a Purist Vikings game. Hit the subscribe button for Minnesota sports content on this channel. We're almost at 10,000 subs. We appreciate you guys. But Jackson says, when will the Hockey Whisperer join? He has to come on for a show one of these days. Here's what I know about the Hockey Whisperer, and now I don't mean to speak for the Whisperer because the Whisperer sees things that even myself and Judd Zolgad don't see, which is why we bring him on the show and bring him to the table here at Score North. I think the Whisperer is looking down to his crystal ball right now. When he sees something fit, he will let us know, and the Whisperer will bring the takes. So if you're looking for Hockey Whisperer takes, that's my shameless plug. Hit the subscribe button on Mackie and Judd, and then I think the Hockey Whisperer will come on here and sprinkle in some of the things that he's seeing from afar. But
the Mackie and Judd show.
On the Mackie and Judd show.
He shows up in mysterious places.
But here's the thing also, last thing on the Hockey Whisperer part, is the Whisperer he's not literally looking too much at the crystal ball because from what I have heard, he has been shotgunning Wolves Kool-Aid. So he unfortunately has put that crystal ball to the side, but he's shotgunning so much Wolves Kool-Aid that if you're into Timberwolves basketball stuff, you also subscribe to this channel because he's getting drunk right now on D-Lo and the Wolves. So
I heard
don't
the
know.
Whisperer has Kraken fever. They beat the Panthers. That's what I heard. I heard that he is a big Donato guy now.
Oh wow.
That's the rumor. He's a big Donato guy. He's very excited by that. So, but yeah. So anyway, I haven't been this positive about the Wild in ages. But look, I think they're a good team. I think they're a well-constructed team. And the playoffs are a long ways away in a completely different conversation. But from what we demanded previously, we are now getting, and that's great. What was that last comment that you just read about the Olympics? Because of the Olympics,
Jeremy D said, "No, I'll have to confirm."
Because of the Olympic, right? The Wild have 35 days between home games, 0 home games. Yeah, but they play like 4 games in February.
Yeah.
It's a very small schedule until they break for the Olympics.
Correct.
That's the difference.
They don't play a single. They'll play. Actually, this is kind of remarkable. They'll play one home game between March 24th and January 24th and March 1st.
Yeah, you know
because
what?
of the Olympics, and then also
get out of the Olympics. Get out of the Olympics. That's my advice. It's been triggered where they can now because I think the contract that they had between the Players Association, the Olympic people, and the league itself was if they had to shut games down because of COVID, and there have been 2 teams now. There have been the Isles are shut down right now for 2 games, and then I think the Senators were shut down a couple weeks back. That triggered a potential out clause. Here's my advice. Redo the schedule right now, put more games into February, and get out of the Olympics ASAP. You do not want to that can be a complete disaster, and we want nothing to derail the Wild's season. That's the most important thing here. I don't care about competition. I don't care about
America,
your countries. You can take your Canadians and Americans. Here's what I want. I want the Wild to maximize the possibilities of having as much success as possible before the salary cap hits of 2022-23 through like 2025 starts. So that's my advice. Get out of the Olympics right now and let this Wild team cook, because they are a good team. We're excited. And what we really need, because we ain't going to have baseball in the spring, is we need a long Stanley Cup playoff run.
I love that.
That's my 2 cents, Declan.
Please make it happen. Please make it happen. Judd's Hockey Show.
I can't make it happen.
Declan Goff here. Mackie and Judd. Subscribe for daily Minnesota sports content. If you want Vikings-related content, head on over to our Purple Daily YouTube page. We just wrapped up Vent Line, about 90 minutes of Vikings therapy session. If you still want some therapy, head on over there. We'll have statements tomorrow on Mackie and Judd. We'll have a pie chart on Purple Daily. But Minnesota sports content right here for you. Knock on the door of 10,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. We appreciate you guys. You can also find our podcast, too, on Apple, Spotify, and scorenorth.com. For Judd Zolgad, I am Declan Goff.
Say it.
Pass, shoot, score. Have a good night.